I need to make a switch tip. I've got some leftover silver, but I can't just like scrunch it together and hope for the best. So I think I'm going to try and cast one. I've never done this before, so it could go horribly wrong, but we shall see. I've invested in some bits and pieces. I've got a little kind of mould cage thing. I'm sure there's a technical name for it, but I don't know it. And some Delft clay. We'll get to that bit. But for now, I need to make a mould that I'm going to actually can cast from. So I've cut off a piece of beeswax that I have, which is probably not the right stuff to use, but it's what I've got, so it's what I'm going to use. And I'm going to make a switch tip from that that's not quite as boring as the standard switchcraft type. And to get the thread and things, I've got the post out of an old dead switchcraft switch, which I'm going to kind of shape this around, and then put this in the mould to give me the threads and see how that works. It might not work. It might work. It's going to be cold, so it could cause issues with the silver hitting it and cooling too quickly to shape the threads. But I don't know any of that until I try it. So you're coming on an adventure with me here. It might work. It should work. I'm going to make it work. And I'm going to learn how to do this. And I get to play with fire. So first things first, I need a hole in this, and to get some shape. Drill. So it turns out the wax wasn't the best thing to use, so I've gone to plan B, which is a small block of maple, which I've done exactly the same thing with, and I'm going to put this into my mini tiny lathe thing and just use this. That'll be easier. As long as I twist the chuck in the right direction. Otherwise it won't be easier. I need to take the freshly turned maple switch tip that I've got and the salvaged part from the toggle switch and put them together. So that's what I need to be moulding. This part down here is going to go back into the mould once I've made it so that it pours around that. It's steel, so it should have a much higher melting point and not actually affect it. So it should, the silver should pour in and it won't form quite as sharp a thread as there is on this post, just because it'll cool too quickly. But it should give me enough of a thread that it will bite and be a nice secure switch tip. Or at least that's the plan. We'll see. So to make the mould, I've got one of these. It's cheap and nasty, and I will stick a link to it in the description. I've had to file these faces to get them to actually sit fairly flush and flat. It's not perfect, but this is the first time I've ever done this, so none of this is ever going to be perfect, is it? What I need with these is to fill one of them with sand, pack it down hard, make half the mould, and then put the other half on top, fill that with sand, pack that down, and then they should separate and give me quite a nice mould. As long as I remember to put something like talcum powder between them to stop them sticking. That's an important thing to remember, which means I may have to run to the shop. But you won't see that. It'll be a seamless flow. It'll be like I never moved anywhere. We brush some talcum powder in between the two halves of the mould to stop them sticking together. See? Seamless. Not. And in theory, we are now ready to play with fire. So let's put that to one side and get things ready to melt some silver. So this should be everything I need. I'm going to melt the silver in this crucible, and then I will sprinkle some borax in, which will help separate all the impurities and help it flow, in theory. And then whilst it's still hot and I've still got the blowtorch aimed at it to keep it melted, or molten if you want to use correct English, I will pour it into the mould, and hopefully, if all has gone to plan, I will have a silver switch tip. To call that a fairly successful cast. It's not quite as clean and detailed as it could be, but it's a switch tip and it's silver. So what I'm going to do is chuck this up in, probably use my tiny little lathe, and I'll spin it round and just file it nice and smooth, get the shape back in. If it's a little bit bumpy and kind of keeps the kind of almost bubbles in it, I don't mind. I quite like that because it shows that it's hand cast. And I don't really want it to be absolutely perfect first time. There's something wrong when you do something completely new and get it perfect the first time. You get complacent and don't learn more things. one sterling silver switch tip. In the interest of full disclosure, it took me 3 attempts to get to this. The first one cast beautifully, first time. God knows how. And then I got it over here, turned it on the mini lathe, and it wouldn't come off the threaded part of the switch. And then when I tried to get it off, I thought I'll sacrifice the surface and I'll resand it and polish it. It snapped the thread inside the silver. Ballsed up that one. The next one didn't cast at all. That went horribly wrong. This one has worked. And it looks absolutely incredible. There was a small bubble, but I've filled that with some ebony, which kind of just gives it a little bit of something else to the switch. And I've polished that up, and that is now going on the Phoenix. I'm happy with that.